Hello, welcome back to Relational Leadership with Dele Agbogun. This week, we are continuing our exploration of relational leadership by looking inward. Yes, today we'll be looking inward, specifically at how our foundational experiences shape our professional lives. Our focus today is on the often unseen influence of family dynamics in the workplace, and the central question we are tackling is: how do you handle workplace situations? How do you handle workplace situations? It's a question that seems straightforward on the surface, but when you look a little deeper, we uncover a fascinating truth. The ways we learn to navigate relationships and resolve conflicts within our families often cast a long shadow over our interactions at work. Think about it. For most of us, our family is the very first social system we encounter. It's where we learn the unwritten rules of engagement, how to assert our needs or not, and now the various strategies for dealing with disagreements, big or small. These early experiences become deeply ingrained patterns that we often carry with us, unconsciously influencing how we interact with colleagues, managers, and even those we lead. Let's consider how the conflict resolution styles we witnessed and adopted within our families play out in professional arena. Did you grow up in a household where conflict was avoided at all costs? Perhaps disagreements were swept under the rug, leaving underlying tensions to simmer. If so, you might find yourself hesitant to address workplace issues directly, preferring to smooth things over or even avoid confrontation altogether. While maintaining harmony can actually be valuable, consistently sidestepping necessary conversations can lead to resentment, unresolved problems, and ultimately a less productive and authentic work environment. On the other hand, imagine a family where disagreements were frequently and perhaps even loud. In such an environment, you might have learned to engage in conflict more assertively, perhaps even confrontationally, as a way to be heard, because that is the blueprint that has been made available to you. While directedness can be beneficial in workplace, this ingrained style might be perceived as aggressive or disruptive by colleagues. If you are just joining in, this is Relational Leadership with Dele Agbogun. This podcast holds every Saturday, 7 p.m. If you've missed part of this, you can always go back to get the gist of where we are coming from, because we've been on this right now for weeks. Yes. So, where did I stop? I said, why directedness can be beneficial in the workplace. This ingrained style might be perceived as aggressive or disruptive by colleagues who come from more conflict-averse backgrounds, potentially damaging working relationships and hindering collaborations. Now, beyond conflict resolution, the roles we play within our families can also significantly impact our professional behavior. Think about it. The eldest child syndrome. If you think about the eldest child syndrome, the individual who often took on responsibility and leadership roles within the family, they might naturally gravitate towards leadership positions at work, exhibiting a strong sense of duty and a tendency to take charge. However, they might also struggle with delegation or become overly critical of perceived inefficiencies, mirroring their familiar role of being the responsible one. Now, consider the middle child, who often learns the art of negotiation and mediation to find their place within the family dynamic. This can translate into excellent diplomacy skills in the workplace, making them adept at resolving team disputes and building consensus. However, because there's always a but to every part that plays out. However, they might also struggle with feeling overlooked or having their contributions fully acknowledged, echoing their experience of navigating for tension within a larger family. Even the youngest child, who might have been accustomed to being nurtured and having fewer responsibilities, might unconsciously seek out mentorship or guidance in the workplace, potentially hesitating to take independent initiative, and the only child used to a high degree of individual attention and autonomy. This one might thrive in independent roles but find collaborative environment or constant team interactions more challenging. To bring this into a real-world context, let's consider a workplace example. I once worked with a team experiencing persistent friction between two members. This was many years back. Let's call them Sarah and Mark. Now, this is not my personal experience, these hypothetical names here, Sarah and Mark. Sarah was very direct in her communication, often stating her opinions forcefully, which Mark perceived as aggressive. Mark, on the other hand, would often agree verbally, but then express his reservations privately to others. Can you relate with that? Or can you relate to some similar scenarios playing out where you currently work? Now, Mark, on the other hand, will often agree verbally, but then express his reservation privately to others, creating a sense of mistrust. But through open conversations facilitated by a relational leader, it emerged that Sarah came from a family where direct and sometimes heated discussions were the norm. It was simply how things were communicated. Mark, on the other hand, grew up in a family where conflict was heavily discouraged, leading him to adopt an avoidance strategy and a reluctance to express dissenting opinions directly. Understanding these underlying familiar influences didn't excuse negative behavior, though, but it provided valuable insight into their communication styles and root of their interpersonal challenges. This awareness allowed the team to have more empathetic conversations, establish clearer communication norms, and ultimately work towards more effective collaboration. Now, before I bring this week's edition to a close, as a relational leader, now I would say, as relational leaders, fostering self-awareness within our teams and even within ourselves about these deeply ingrained family dynamics can be incredibly powerful. By understanding where our default responses to workplace situations might originate, we can begin to make more conscious choices about how we interact and lead. Now, recognizing that our colleagues too bring their own unique set of familiar influences to the table can foster greater empathy and understanding, paving the way for stronger relationships and a more harmonious and productive work environment. It's a reminder that leading with connection means acknowledging the whole person, including the formative experiences that have shaped who they are today. Now, I've spoken quite a lot now, so I'll just put a pause at this point in time. And before I leave, I would like you to always go in to like, subscribe. You can share with the people you know this can also be beneficial with, and please drop your comment so that we can always get the conversations going in the course of the week. Until I come your way next week, I want to say bye for now.